Greetings and welcome to the maiden edition of the program with Other Option. A program of Aspire Radio dedicated to sharing actionable insights derived from the laws that govern all life. This program emphasizes the importance of aligning with these universal laws for personal and spiritual growth, offering listeners a path to transformative change. The Other Option is brought to you courtesy of Nkemefuna Foundation, committed to promoting local language, arts and music, and Limitless Managers, providing innovative solutions for a sustainable future. Today especially, we dive into the pages of a book with an intriguing title, The Spirit of Truth Brings the Everlasting Testament, written by Stephen Lampe. For those who over the years have followed Lampe's literary activities know that he has other publications under his belt, including The Christian and Reincarnation, Building Future Societies, The Spiritual Principles, Thinking About God, Reflections on Conceptions and Misconceptions, The Primordial Laws of Creation, Keys to Joyous Achievement of Life's Purposes, and now what comes across as the crowning point of Lampe's literary effort, The Spirit of Truth Brings the Everlasting Testament. On this program, The Other Option, we will unpack this book following three distinct themes over 3 episodes, namely the nature of the Spirit of Truth, the Everlasting Testament, and practical guidance for spiritual growth that bridges the gap between science, religion, and spirituality. In this 363 pages comprising 13 chapters, Lampe acknowledges the unique contributions of 4 gentlemen, Mr. Lade Bonwala, Mr. Deji Haastrup, Mr. Kolawole Lawani, and Mr. Olushola Samuel Adegbe, the first 3 of whom, together we will delve into the pages to unlock the objective of Lampe's book. This particular edition focuses on practical guidance for spiritual growth that bridges the gap between science, religion, and spirituality. For this, we'll be talking with Mr. Deji Haastrup. Mr. Haastrup, you're welcome to the program, The Other Option, and to Aspire Radio.
It is indeed my pleasure to be given this unique opportunity to participate in such an activity as ennobling as this. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, Mr. Deji Haastrup is a seasoned public affairs analyst, consultant, and advocate for good governance. He began his career as a broadcaster at WNTV, WNBS, Africa's first television station. Haastrup holds a master's degree in communication arts from the University of Ibadan. His career spans roles such as assistant to the U.S. Consul for Public Affairs, public relations manager at the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, IITA, and Chevron. He has authored 4 non-fiction books and continues to influence public discourse on governance. Haastrup resides in Cape Town, South Africa, where he offers consultancy and advocacy on governance issues. Mr. Haastrup, once again, it's a delight to have you on this maiden edition of the program, The Other Option, on Aspire Radio.
It's my pleasure to participate.
So tell me, how is it going in SA at the moment?
It's lovely here. We are in a transition period. It's April, and we're nearing Easter. And Easter is the official start of the autumn in Cape Town. So it's still warm as in summer, but the evenings get a little bit chilly. So it's a lovely weather we have here.
Interesting. It's so interesting to be talking about autumn in Africa.
Several parts to Africa.
Let's dive into the subject matter for today: practical guidance for spiritual growth that bridges the gap between science, religion, and spirituality. Now, at the heart of any spiritual book lies one key question: how does this change how we live from day to day? So let's get in and see how we can bring out some practical takeaways. Mr. Haastrup, what was it that really endeared you to Mr. Lampe's book, aside from the fact of the IITA connection, I think?
Well, Dr. Lampe has been, for the want of a better way to put it, a helper in many ways to my own growth, both as an individual, as a person, and my spiritual growth. And I have found in his work, I have read all of his work, by the way, and I have found in them a certain consistency. They are very simply presented. He's a very eloquent writer, and he follows a logic that if you pay close attention and follow it as he has presented it, you'd gain a lot of benefit from it, both spiritual and in everyday life. In particular, his book on building future societies is a very practical guide for government and governance. And I recommend all his books to anyone. It's always been my good fortune to be allowed to participate whenever he's involved in another endeavor, such as writing a book. And I found my participation to be personally ennobling, for which I'm very grateful.
Right. Thank you very much. Now, let's go straight into the main questions. Science and religion, as you know, are often seen as opposing forces. Yet, Lampe envisions a harmonious relationship. So let's explore how exactly he comes about that. What practical steps does he suggest from the book, The Everlasting Testament, bridging these seemingly disconnected domains of our personal lives?
You know, science, as I like to say, is the art of discovery of physical reality. So what the scientist tries to do is to find out how things work in life. What makes the plant grow? Why does a certain virus lead to a disease? So it's an inquisition, a discovery that tries to understand what it is that helps humanity to understand what he's dealing with while on earth. Spirituality is the quest for the true knowledge of creation and the laws that govern creation. And by learning of those laws, we get a glimpse of the will of the Creator himself. In other words, the laws of creation and creation itself is the language of the Creator in which he talks to his creation. So spirituality is helping us, one, to get closer to the nature of who we are, because we are a part of creation. It also helps us get closer to the knowledge of our Creator. So in that sense, science is a little limited, since it's discovering the reality of the physical world, whereas spirituality is the entire creation, both the physical and non-physical world, and it uses the spirit of man, which is the essence of man, to make those connections. So understanding how creation works helps us so that we do not fall short of our expectations. Like you mentioned in the introduction, the laws of life. If one wants to keep in life, if we do not understand the laws of a country, we'll fall short and we'll get arrested, get prosecuted, sent to jail. The same applies to the laws of creation. If we don't learn about it and we fall short, there are consequences. Falling short, some people refer to as sinning or contravention, but whatever be the case, the laws of God are immutable. They cannot, you cannot avoid them. They are woven into creation, and every member of his creation has to be guided by the laws. So it's important that everyone, not the least human beings, try to gain as much as possible this knowledge. And we are fortunate to have one like Dr. Lampe, who is not just knowledgeable in this spiritual knowledge of creation, but is also a very erudite scholar of many religions. In particular, he's an exceedingly important scholar of the Bible, which is the book that Orthodox Christianity values the most. So he's a very important connection for all humanity to learn of the laws of creation and how to live their life.
All right. As a follow-up to that question, how then does Lampe reconcile science's emphasis on logic with spirituality's focus on the unseen?
So again, there's a connection between science's desire to unearth the truth of physical reality and the spiritual quest for the truth of creation and the laws that govern creation. Truth has certain qualities. I will mention just three of them. One is logic. You can test truth by imposing logic on it. If it's not logical, it cannot be truth. Second, consistency. Truth is always consistent. It will repeat itself. It does not matter how many times you ask yourself the same question, it would come back to the same answer, because the truth is governed by laws that are woven into creation, and they cannot deviate. So consistency it is. The final one is what I call eternality, or the everlastingness of truth. Truth was, is, and will forever be. It is our understanding of it that changes. We who are trying to grapple with truth are limited in our growth, in our spiritual development, and that influences how much of it we grasp at any given time. But the truth itself never changes. What we understand of it evolves based on our own maturity, but the truth has what I call eternality. Those are the qualities of truth. And that last one is what science does not have, because science is limited and therefore revises itself. However, both of them seek to make life better livable through understanding of what goes on in life and in nature.
So indeed, how then can there be harmonized? Is there a meeting point? Or is it that the everlasting testament he's referring to now gives us the opportunity, or rather harmonizes science, religion, spirituality to give us a wholesome experience?
Well, let me try to illustrate with a very should I say, a simple story that one would have to follow closely in order to understand. Supposing we consider a time long ago, maybe the 14th or 15th century, when science was not developed. A little boy lives in a village and desires to visit his grandmother in another village. So he's allowed to go spend a weekend in this village. On the second day of his visit, he falls violently ill. No one knows what was wrong with him, so he's immediately taken back home to his own village. Because there was no medicine, there's very little understanding of illnesses in those days, no one really knew what was wrong with him. But eventually he gets over it. Now, everyone in the village, in the mother's village, comes with their own theory of what might have happened. Some say, well, they're sure that what happened to him because he went to his grandmother's village. Then there are others who say, yes, the grandmother must have cursed him. It is the curse on him that caused him to react violently. And then the third person says, yes, I've always known that the grandmother is a witch. So all of these people have come out with all kinds of theories based on their limited knowledge of what happened. Now, a few years down the road, a certain gentleman who's a little bit more developed, has more insight into these things, comes along, and the young boy approaches him and says, look, I love my grandmother, and I'm sure she loves me, but they don't want me to visit with her because they say she's a witch, and she would put a curse on me. So the gentleman says, why did they say such a thing? And he says, well, the last time I went to visit with her, I felt violently ill. And when I came back, I felt better. This gentleman, because he's a knowing one, he has knowledge, says to him, but you feel certain that your grandmother loves you and he couldn't have bewitched you? He says, yes. And he says, okay, give me a moment. So he goes to the village of the grandmother and says, I'd like to meet the grandmother. After spending an hour with the grandmother says, I really miss my son, my grandson. I love him so much. The knowing one then goes back and says, well, listen, allow this boy to visit with his grandmother, but while he's there, he must fast. He must go on a day when there's fasting in the village, so he doesn't eat anything while he's there. And the little boy was very happy. The grandmother was very happy. And they had a jolly good time in the village. So when he got back, everybody was wondering that it must have been because he fasted that the curse didn't have an effect on him. That when you fast, it makes you immune to curses by witches. Many years later, when science has evolved, it was able to discover the science of allergies. What has happened is the boy has an allergy to a fruit, a particular fruit that is found in the village that the grandmother gives to him when he's in the village. And that fruit causes him to react badly. But no one has suspected this because he's not the only one who eats the fruit in the village. So they believe that it has nothing to do with the fruit. It must be a curse. So this is what science does, and this is what spirituality does. Now, the gentleman who told him to fast always knew that the fruit is the one that is causing the problem. But he knows that no one in the village or in the mothers understands allergy. So he says, I will not talk to them about allergy. I will just tell them to fast. Now, but when the third person comes in, who you could call the spirit of truth, he reveals everything. He now says to them, gentlemen, you were right that the cause of the problem was in that village. You were also right that the cause of the problem was the grandmother But you were wrong. It was not because the grandmother was a witch. It was not because it was a curse. It was because the boy reacted to the fruit that he was giving in the village. Now, there are many who would say that they don't believe that the grandmother is a witch, but the truth remains. The fact is, he had always reacted, he would always react, whether or not they knew about allergies, whether or not they knew it was the fruit, the truth remains the truth. So what Dr. Lampe has done in his book is to connect knowledge that had been known and revealed before in a way that is understandable to a new generation of truth seekers who has a generation that has evolved up to the point that they can now. Because I'm in communications, and there's something we say in communications. It's not about what you say, it's what is heard. What that means is that the communicator has a small role to play in communications, is the level of maturity of the one who is listening, who is hearing, who is absorbing, that counts for how much of what is said becomes a reality for him. So Dr. Lampe helps us to understand truth in a way that does not confuse those who follow the process of evolution of knowledge with regards to the truth. For instance, in this book that we are talking about, he refers a great deal to the Bible. And he talks a lot about understanding the Bible and how people who want to understand the truth have to understand the Bible closely. He in fact starts off by quoting a portion of the Bible where the Lord Jesus Christ was talking to his disciples, and he told them that there are many things I would have told you, but you are not able at this point to bear them or to understand them. But a time will come when the evolution would have been at such a stage, and the Spirit of truth would reveal all things. So the essence of the quotation from the Bible is to say that the truth has always been there, but our capacity to absorb it has always been limited to the level of development and evolution of humanity. And so what Dr. Lampe tries to do is to evolve our knowledge of what has always been.
Okay, now let's try and wrap up, because we're pressed for time at this moment. And from what you said a while ago, it brings out obviously the answer to the next question I was just about to ask you, in which Lampe discusses the obstacles to spiritual growth. And I was going to ask which is the most common in today's world. You've already highlighted it, because the real challenge there is knowledge.
Yes, I've highlighted it. But one thing I must mention is, I think, in my experience, there's a gentleman who's passed away now. He used to be a professor of history at the University of Chicago, and later became a librarian of the Library of Congress in the United States. He said something that I never have forgotten the first time I came across, and he says, the greatest obstacle to discovery is not ignorance. It is the illusion of knowledge. One of the problems that humanity has today is a lack of humility. Any person who thinks he knows everything will not know a lot more. Because if you think you already know, then it's difficult for you to learn any new thing. So one of the greatest obstacles, in my view, to spiritual growth is a lack of humility. One must be humble. One must understand one's place as a member of creation and seek to know about creation in a very humble way. And that's one of the critical things that I would mention as preventing spiritual growth today.
Interesting. That's quite illuminating. In conclusion now, Mr. Haastrup, what other piece of advice would you like to leave with listeners and viewers on the significance of Lampe's work in a short summary so we can close?
First of all, I'd like to once again say thank you very much indeed for allowing me this opportunity. I believe that we are now at a time when we have been availed this knowledge from which Dr. Lampe himself has clearly drawn from, which is the work In the Light of Truth, the Grail Message, which he quotes a lot from. He asks people, and I'd like to repeat that, not to allow other people to be the determinant of what they know about life, because it's more important than anything that we understand life so that we don't contravene the laws of life. And so, in wrapping up, I'd like to encourage people to pick up this book with an open mind, without any prejudice, to go through it carefully and see what they can take away from it. That would be my advice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Haastrup, for taking time to be with us on the program today. To find this everlasting testament that brings together science, religion, and spirituality in a harmonious accord that leads back to the source of all life. Thank you very much, Mr. Haastrup, once again. And I'm sure we'll see you again sometime when we'll need your attention.
Thank you very much.
Right, the program today has been brought to you your way courtesy of Nkemefuna Foundation, committed to promoting local language, arts and music, and limitless managers, bringing innovative solutions for a sustainable future. Till I come your way again, I am Waobi Orakwe, still with you on Aspire Radio.